Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Isolde Trachtenberg, and I am thrilled to welcome you to The Creative Kind. Today, I want to talk about visionaries versus implementers. Super important to think about as a creative. What is a visionary and what is an implementer? Well, a visionary, to me, is someone who gets the big ideas. Your Mozart, your Einstein, your Leonardo da Vinci, your Nikola Tesla, various and some Marie Curie visionaries, right? People who have the big ideas and who then make those ideas come to fruition. Now, they are full of inspiration, full of fire, full of, I know what, let me try this, which is fabulous and works really great. However, a visionary is often a specialist. Mozart, Einstein were amazing at what they were great at, but they routinely forgot to put their pants on in the morning, right? So you have people who are geniuses at what they're great at, but they don't necessarily have, and they're extreme examples, I know, but they don't necessarily have the skills in the day-to-day stuff of life, in the step-by-step stuff of life. They make leaps. They make intuitive leaps. They make psychological leaps, emotional leaps, intellectual leaps, just kaboom. That's what visionaries do. They see far. They see often conceptually. They see the whole picture laid out before them, and then they have to follow it back from A to X all the way back to A to B. So they see these big evolutionary leaps, and it's fabulous. An implementer is a different person, and of course, but here's what I mean. Remember, this whole thing is raw, real, and unedited. You're getting it straight from me to you. So an implementer is someone who takes perhaps that big idea and then figures out the systematization of that big idea, how to systematize it so that you can go A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, all the way to X. Whereas the visionary saw the whole thing, right? The visionary saw A to X and was going. So why is that important? Well, I think we're broken down into those two broad categories. We have the specialists, the visionaries, and we have the generalists, the people who have to have a better grasp on the day-to-day stuff of life in order to be able to implement things over the long haul, right? A visionary often will find themselves having the great idea, having the big idea, having the intuitive leap, and then they'll test it out to make sure that it works. But then their interest is drawn elsewhere, right? They're off on to the races on the next thing. Whereas the implementer is the person who'll go, okay, let's systematize it. Let's figure out how to get this to work over the long term, to work for lots of people, to work across populations or across time or whatever. The visionary isn't necessarily going to spend time doing that or thinking about it. Rather, the visionary is going to be the person who goes, okay, I've figured out this. Now I'm taking this and standing on the shoulders of that particular giant and making the leap on to the next thing. And I think it's important for us to know which we are. Are you a visionary? Are you the person who's got the big ideas? Or are you an implementer who goes A to B, B to C, C to D? And why it's that important? It's important because the more you know that about yourself, the more you know who you need to surround yourself with so that you ultimately get success. As a visionary, someone will need an implementer in order to do the day-to-day stuff of life. The implementer might have ideas, but might not make those big, huge intuitive leaps. So that's important when you're a creative, because you might be building on the shoulders of giants and going step by step, or you might be a visionary. You might have the big idea and then have to figure out how to make it happen. That's why I think teams like that work really well, because with that you get the possibility of having both the short term and the long term. And let me bring in something that I think is really interesting. I was talking about fire the other day, the sort of the harnessing of fire. And you can imagine the visionary in ancient times saw fire like a lightning strike and a wildfire happen and went, holy crap, that's destructive. But then they had to figure out, wait a minute, how could I harness that? How could I do something with it? When and where I want it to. And that's something I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's episode, because that's important in how we approach what we create and when. This is Isolde Trachtenberg. As always, if you know someone who could benefit from listening to this or seeing this, please let them know. Drop them a line. Let them know about the Creative Kind podcast. There's a lot going on, diving super deep into the creative mindset to get you all of the information that you need in order to become a creative kind. Really find and plumb the depths of that for who you are and who you want to be. And if you would, I would love it. It would mean a ton to me if you would leave a review on iTunes or Google Podcasts, wherever it is you listen or watch, so that I know whether or not I'm giving you what you need. Until tomorrow, I send you all my love.